Missing someone with all your missing someone.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this week I had the amazing opportunity to participate in Danger Jones' first Danger Sessions, which is basically an event that they held at the Butterfly Loft Salon. It's the salon where I work at, and they flew out a bunch of artists and just invited a bunch of artists to come and do models and just have a really fun day of content creation. And so this is my models before. This is actually my client, and I've been doing her hair for years now. I haven't touched up her hair in over a year, and so her roots were really grown out, and we were going to be doing probably one of my most requested looks behind the chair, which is going to be like a really dimensional lived-in balayage. And so I am going to be using the Danger Jones powder lightener for this one, and there I am mixing up basically a 10 volume for my first bowl, and then after that I'm just going to be using 20 volume for her whole hair transformation. So since we're going to be doing something a little bit more dimensional, I am going to be doing my signature placement, which I will be sharing with you guys today. I start off by doing a detailed weave around the nape of the neck here, and I'm just going to do one on each side, and then right above it I am going to be taking a slice to kind of give her a little bit more color there. We're not trying to make her super blonde or anything. We want to keep the dimension in her hair, but she does have some pretty long and gnarly roots, so I do want to have enough foils in there. And sometimes with dark hair it can be kind of tricky to kind of estimate how far apart your foils should be, or whether or not you should slice or do a weave. I definitely had trouble with that when I first started doing hair, is figuring out how far to space out my foils. And usually if I'm doing like a really dimensional type of color, I try not to space them out anything over an inch. I kind of give it like half an inch to that in between where it's like right before an inch. And so I feel like that's kind of a sweet spot if you want something dimensional. And then of course, like if you're going to be doing slices, you can do like the closer to the inch but not quite an inch side of it. But if you're going to be doing a weave, then I would probably give it like half an inch between the spacing, and I find that that works really well for something that's going to be more on the dimensional side. Now, if this was going to be something that was going to be like super high impact, like super solid blonde, I would probably space my foils really close together, make sure that the negative space is like really see-through. And I would probably do slices all over her head to try and get full impact as much as possible. But for her, we're sticking with the more dimensional route. So for majority of this placement, I am going to be doing slices to kind of get the most out of each foil, but spacing them out. So here you can see I've pretty much spaced that out just right above half an inch probably. And because she does have previous highlights on the ends, I'm trying to make sure to be careful and just like carefully pick them out as I go through her hair. Now, her ends of her hair aren't as light as I would like them to be, and that's totally expected because it's been so long since we've done her hair. I do expect just like her old highlights to get a little bit darker over time. So after I'm done hitting all of the regrowth and the darkest areas of her hair, then I'll kind of worry about hitting those mids and ends later. And we're kind of just going for something more neutral, slightly on the warmer tone, nothing too blonde, but also we don't want to be like brown. So I want to give her a good amount of lift from the pieces that I am lightening her. So when I do lift her, our goal today is to kind of get her to like at least like a level 9. If we can get her to a level 10, that'd be great, but really our goal is to get to a level 9. I find that a level 9 you can It fades out really pretty, and you can really work with it and do a bunch of different tones. And I feel like more of that neutral kind of warm tone works best too when you have a little bit more warmth in the hair. So that is also why I don't necessarily want to lift her to a level 10, but our goal is to be a level 9. And for sure I do want to lift her past that level 8 level, because I feel like when the hair is naturally this dark, like I would say levels maybe 5 and below, if you lift them to like a level 8, they really come, like clients come back a lot brassier than if you were to lift them to level 9, just because a level 8 on this level just looks really yellow, and over time I feel like the blonde does get kind of darker, especially for my blonde clients, just because of the minerals in their water at home or anything. It could be overusing purple shampoo, but that is why my sweet spot for even doing something more on the warmer side is to kind of lift them to a level 9. So I pretty much did slices all the way up to where I would say this is like 2 inches from her hairline. And so for her money piece, I am doing a baby light right there, and I'm kind of following the shape of her hairline. And then after that, I'm gonna start pivoting with just 2 slices to kind of give that like skinny to fat money piece look. And when I do this next slice, if you can see the hair that is pivoting, it's like a little pinch past the point in the middle of her head. And so I'm not using directly that middle part right there. I'm going a little bit to the left of it. And so it's gonna keep that point where she parts her hair like that skinny effect. And then since I'm slicing behind it but still pivoting from that area, it's going to create that boldness on the underneath. And so later when you see me curl her hair, you really see the high impact of the skinny weave that I first did around her hairline, and then that slice right behind it, but is a little bit shifted, not at that same center point. It's kind of a little bit below it. So after I had done that weave and then I do 2 slices, I'm going to continue doing my slicing pattern to kind of blend that money piece to the back area. And I'm just taking that center part section and just taking thin slices to connect that. Now when I'm doing my slices, I want you to note that my slices are pretty see-through too. I want to try and get that really clean, even lift. And I do like to cut custom long foils so that I don't fold up the hair wherever there is lightener, because I just find that sometimes that can create some warm spots. So just to ensure that I get a really clean, even lift, I am doing long foils and just kind of laying another foil right on top. And then on the side hairline, I am doing 2 weaves back to back. I don't want this part to be too bold, so I'm not slicing it. I am just doing like pretty much like a baby light. And then I'm going to connect that front money piece section by doing a weave right above the ear. And so essentially this foil right here is pretty much connecting the money piece to the very first foil that I did in the nape and the neck in the back. And so that's how I kind of do the side area to connect that front. And then I'm pretty much going to just continue doing my slicing pattern up on the sides and making sure that I get a nice clean even lift. I'm going to be taking my slices nice and see-through, laying them flat onto my foil, and then saturating enough lightener on those pieces. And now on the spacing on these sides are pretty much similar to what was done in the back. I am leaving quite a bit of dimension in between because, again, we want something that's going to be more dimensional than more of like a high impact blonde for this one. So I am leaving quite a bit of negative space in between and just continuing up. Now when I get to like the top of the head where she starts to kind of like the head kind of curves, it's above the crown area, sometimes I will space these foils a little bit closer together just to make sure that there's no dark spots if she tends to do a really hard side part. Sometimes I'll just space them out a little bit closer together, just to make sure that I get enough light and coverage on these areas if she were to part her hair off to the side a little bit deeper. So once I'm done touching up her roots, I'm going to be going in and tipping out some of the ends where they're kind of a little bit on the darker side, because I want her ends to look a little bit more solid than they are right now. So I am separating the hair right now, and this is also a good tip, especially for long hair that is dark, and sometimes the foils can puff up and kind of like bleed through. So it definitely helps to separate the hair like that to prevent any of that. So right now I'm going in and teasing, and when I do my teases, I like to take very thin sections. Like my teases are even thinner than my slices before. They're extremely see-through, and I start by teasing, and then I'll do a weave, and then I kind of like just paint up at a slant and kind of go at a diagonal back when I paint up. And so I'm actively trying to pick out any of the dark pieces in the ends of her hair to try and create the ends, like a more solid effect on the ends. So now that her foils are ready, I'm going in and pulling them out, and I'm going to rinse them off. And you can see how beautiful she lifted from the lightener. I feel like she lifted to a really clean level 9, and because I laid my foils flat, I feel like it didn't move the lightener around, and I was able to get a really even lift. So I'm going to mix up her root shadow tone. So I'm using the Danger Jones gloss toners, and I love these demi-permanents. They work amazing, and I feel like it gives such a gel-like consistency. I'm so obsessed with it. I mixed up a 6-0, which is a level 6 natural. And then I mixed that with a 7-0, which is level 7 natural. And I feel like it has a lot of great pigment. It is on the cooler side for being a natural tone, but that is exactly what I was going for. And I'm just going in right now and just shadow rooting. So when I do my shadow roots, I always will line exactly where they part their hair, and then start saturating the roots vertically in the back. And so I'll go in the back and just hit the roots, and then finish off with the sides. And so after I did her root shadow, I kind of wanted to brighten those ends, like I said earlier, because her ends just weren't as light as I wanted them to be. I felt like her old blonde definitely got darker over time. So I'm just going in with just like a bit of lightener to kind of brighten the ends a little bit. And I'm using the Danger Jones lightener, and I mix that with just 20 volume. And I'm just kind of painting over and doing a wet balayage at this point. I did not root shadow her hairline, so that part is left out. I'm gonna save that for later. But this is pretty much what it looked like after I was done wet balayaging. So while that was processing, I started to mix up her other toner. So right now I'm mixing up her mid toner, which I mixed up 8-32. And then for her end toner, I mixed up the 10-32 and then added in a bit of 10-03. And so the mid-tone, which is the 8-32, it's a level 8 gold violet, and this is the most beautiful like bronze beigey tone. And so I wanted like a mid-level tone to kind of make it look like more of that ombre effect. And so I'm applying it to the mids, and after I apply it to the mids, I kind of like brush it out, and then I will be applying the lighter tone. And then again, for her lighter formulation, I did the 10-32, which is level 10 gold violet. And then I mixed that in with a 10-03, which is a level 10 natural gold. And I used a level 10 because I wanted it to be nice and bright. I didn't want to get it too ashy, so we mixed up a level 10, and if there's a little bit of warmth, it's okay because we're kind of going for that more of a neutral like slash warm tone anyways. And so as I'm applying the lighter tone, I'm going back and making sure, checking that the root and the mid tone is good as I'm going through and adding in that lighter toner, and then just brushing through really quickly to make sure I get a really clean saturation. And the reason why I love these gloss toners too, guys, is that it's very conditioning. You can see it's so easy to brush out. It's like very glossy. It makes the hair extremely shiny and super hydrated. It doesn't feel drying one bit when I'm toning, and I absolutely love it for all of my natural tone clients. Alrighty guys, so here is the finished look. I absolutely love the way that this came out. It's still super dimensional but brighter on the ends. I feel like this is going to grow out really soft and fade out really pretty, because as this fades out, because she's lifted so nicely underneath, it's just going to fade into more of like a beigey lighter blonde tone. And I feel like once it fades out, she really won't have to touch it up too much. I feel like it's just going to blend and fade out really pretty against her natural. Alrighty guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and as always, I will talk to you guys next week.